one-dimensional. I didn't really build on the characters so much. But once I went back and I thought, okay, now I need to fill up the bit background, their development. Part of it, yes, I do draw inspiration from real life, from the people who I interact with, and adding a few quirks here, right? Adding a few characteristics of someone, quirks from someone else. And just I try to imagine, okay, if I meet this person, how would I, consider that person to be? How would I like that person to be? If it's a good person, I mean, someone who I want to make that person attractive. So what were the kind of things I might want to see, or general public might want to see? So yes, that took a bit of work and a few revisions, but got there in the end.
But also to add to what Pamela says, writing a short story is a lot more tougher than writing a novel. Because of the fact that you would actually have to compress everything in that 10, 15 pages and build a character, tell the story, end the story. So I think if Pamela has written a number of short stories good enough to actually get into a book, then I think it sets off to your writing abilities.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Authors are not there in fiction. Why is it?
Joint authors. Two authors writing a book together.
She and her husband. Why not?
I think one will be passive in that scenario, gives the ideas, one would write.
Or maybe he's the character in the book and she writes about him. So, but yeah, he's got a point. Yeah, hardly.
Wait, Ravi, let's write a book together. First, we find a topic.
There is a topic.
It is a topic
Yeah.
already in your head.
Yeah. Love in Days of the Bankster.
Last days of the bankster.
Love in the Days of the Bankster. So we can talk about love affairs of people working in a bank. It's going to be very interesting. Any other questions, guys? People
That you want to write. What is the first thing as authors when you start writing? You think of a book that's going to be good, or you think of a topic that's going to be successful?
She asked whether when you're thinking of an idea of a book, do you think it is going to be a bestseller, as successful, or do you think of it as a good book? So I said neither, because you're just thinking of a concept. At least that's what I think. I just think of a concept and an idea, and then take the organic growth of the characters and the story, keeping a broad structure and outline in mind to write. So.
And suppose that has been a success, and you want the second one, won't you work with the same idea?
I'm writing a trilogy, so I'm taking the character from my first book and developing her through the second book and the third book. So it's far tougher for me, because for most authors, their entire story finishes in those 250 pages. And it's done, and their character growth and everything, and the plot points and everything is completely done. But for a trilogy, I've taken the second and seen how a normal person's life will continue. So it's a slice of life and how you continue, because when you finish the book, your life doesn't end. So why should a character's? For me, so.
See, when you asked Pamela as to what would she prefer, whether literary success or commercial success, she told you all the right answers. Okay. But her last point was, if I have to choose one, it's got to be successful author. Okay. And in writing, success is normally measured by the number of copies sold. Okay. No author starts writing assuming that he's got a great thought, but he knows nobody will buy it. Okay. He starts writing assuming that, yeah, here I have a good idea, which can be made into a great book, which can be very successful. And I think that's Pamela's thought behind writing this book. And most authors start that way. So I think what's important for an author is commercial success, because that's what gets you fame, that's what gets you money, and that's what gets you more writing contracts. And today, if Pamela were to write great English, but all you guys standing here, if you guys don't buy this book, then Mr. Sharma is not going to give her the next contract. So I think it's important that we make Pamela into a commercially successful author. And then, if you are a good author, literary success will come automatically. Because 5 people reading a book does not make it a literary success. 500,000 reading it and appreciating it will make it a better literary success. Any advice to budding authors in the crowd?
And this feels so strange, ever since I told people I have written a book and it's going to be published and all, so many people come and ask, do you have any tips? And I'm like, okay, I just being published, I don't have any tips. I'm just praying that, okay, getting some good reviews and, it being, as Ravi said, a success. I would just say, keep writing, and keep trying. It happened for me. I'm sure it will happen for everyone who are really have their heart into this.
Okay, we have Shoma Narayan here. Welcome, Shoma. A big round of applause for Shoma. India's only Mills and Boon author to go international. And she currently has a 4-book contract with Mills and Boon. She was a winner of the Mills and Boon Passion Contest. And she herself is a very senior banker with one of the global banks in this country. So, Shoma Narayan.
Pretty much just about started out myself. So I read the book, I really liked it. There were a couple of little questions I had here and there which I'll ask you later on. So what I found very interesting, it's a very similar genre to what I write in as well. So what I really liked about it was the way, you had pulled in the international influence and the Indian bait and all of that. It was crafted really well.
Thank you.
So this was your first foray into writing, or
writing on? I've been writing for a long time, but my first publication.
Okay. So any words of advice? How to sell a book?
Selling a book is something that I've also kind of just started figuring out. So we did this whole PR stint and all of that, a couple of magazine interviews, TV interviews and all of that. But I think what really works is when people like the book and someone who's actually read about it talks about it. So I guess the main thing is to get it out in the shelves and have as many people read it as possible.
I've read your book as well. So how difficult is it to write, say, a Mills and Boons, which has standard features of what a Mills and Boon should have, as compared to, say, just another novel?
I think you tend to work far more within a structure. So the skeleton of the story is, so to speak, more defined than it would be if you're just writing from scratch. But what I would like to say is that Mills and Boon is that way, very flexible. So I've pretty much written it the way I wanted to. So of course, there's the basic thing of the love story and the happy ending. But then the way you define the characters, the way you mold the whole thing is pretty much up to you. So
how would you describe the passionate scenes that every Mills and Boons? So how do you tackle those? How do you realize? Yes, James, as Ravi says.
No, so the good part is, for me at least as an author, because I'm not hugely comfortable with very intense stuff on the page. So MBs are very, again, like I said, it's very structured, right? So you have these different levels. So they're actually called heat levels. So I'm writing like pretty much at a very basic heat level, so to speak. So that's like,
I have one question to Pamela, and an issue while writing this book, in the sense that you wrote something, your husband read it, maybe your parents read it, and then they said, "नहीं नहीं बेटा ये मत लिखो, इसको काटो." लोग क्या कहेंगे? Did you ever face something like that while writing a book?
Honestly, no. My husband didn't say anything though, and I didn't really ask my parents, so.
Okay, that's interesting.